Hello, everyone. Hello, I'm Cindy Runger, president of Seattle Rotary, and I am happy to welcome you to our Wednesday meeting. So today, we're going to have lots of fun. We're going to welcome a new member. We will have a short program with Liza from Green Rubino on making an impact with social media. And then we'll hear from our main speaker, Kurt Dammeier, and his company's high-impact philanthropy through food education. So for those of you who are brand new to Rotary, there are 1.2 million of us around the world dedicated to a life of leadership and service. And because Seattle 4 is one of the largest Rotary clubs in the world, we are able to bring in world-class speakers, make an impact locally and globally, and also meet a great network of community and business leaders.
Feel like invocation number 2 here. The food being the theme of today's featured program, I was reminded of a program from a couple decades ago when Julia Child visited our club. Julia's philosophy on food, of course, reflected her philosophy on life. My favorite Julia quote, "You don't have to cook fancy or complicated masterpieces, just good food from fresh ingredients." Strikes me that there's more than just food advice there. Good food from fresh ingredients. And with that in mind, I invite you each, in your own way, to pray or reflect with me. Great Creator, our Rotary 4-way test reminds us of the key ingredients of truth, fairness, goodwill, and seeking a common good. From these essential ingredients, may we make good things in our relationships and in our communities, and always in our own hearts and minds, may we strive to keep each of these ingredients fresh. And all God's Rotarians said, amen.
Now to introduce our short program is Dave McFadden, and he's the managing director from the Port of Seattle. You know, at the beginning of the year, I asked Dave to oversee our external social media outreach, and Dave, he just jumped right in expertly and enthusiastically. So please welcome Dave to introduce our next segment.
Thank you, Cindy. It's my pleasure to introduce Eliza Sanker-Gordon to you this afternoon. As Cindy mentioned, I'm your chair of the Communications Committee this year, and we're really putting a lot of emphasis on increasing our presence on social media. Eliza is going to explain why this is important and what we can all do to boost our online image and engagement. And so, Eliza is a social media strategist for Green Rubino, and she's got a passion for helping others and an insatiable curiosity. So please help me welcome Eliza.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, guys. So, basically today, I want to give you a broad overview of social media really fast, but then my main goal is to give you just a few best practices that could not only be used for Rotary, but for any of your own personal pages, your business's pages, or any company you're involved with. So we'll start with the big picture. We all know the main social media players. We're talking about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. This is the entire world we're really talking about. These are just a few stats that I found. 70% of all US adults are on one of these platforms at least once a month, over 2.5 billion people worldwide. And often people are spending up to an hour per app on these, per day per app. So for young people, we're talking 4 or 5 hours. So we all know it's important, and we all know we need to be there. It's almost like having a website at this point. You have to do it. But what's the best way to do it? So first things first, I have an important exercise that I think is the best way to decide your strategy. Just answer these 2 questions. What is the main reason you have this page, and who is it for? By answering these questions, you can determine your strategy. I think the biggest mistake people make is trying to be everything for everyone. Instead, pick one audience and have one goal and focus on that. And through succeeding with that, you'll have a ripple effect that goes further out into the world. So to get more specific, don't try to go viral. You might have heard of viral videos, things like that. You might think that that's what social media is all about. But in fact, just focus on your content, on the people you know who are following this page. So quality over quantity. If you're posting once a day, every day, that's excellent. But if for some days or some weeks you just don't have any quality content to share, don't post anything. Don't feel the need to jump in on every single current event or anything like that. Just quality content is key. Lean into what's working. If you see that you post a certain type of picture once a week and that's what does best, keep doing that. Don't feel the need to diversify all the time. Lean into it. Look for trends, not hard numbers. I think people get caught up in the analytics, and if it drops for a day, they panic, they think they're doing something wrong. You're probably not. That segues into my next point, which is keep current events in mind. And by that, I don't mean the day-to-day news. By that, I actually mean the news of social media. So Facebook changes their algorithm. You may see your numbers drop a huge amount. Again, don't panic. Go Google, what's going on with Facebook today? Maybe they had a marketing meeting and their stocks dropped, and so their reach dropped. It could be as simple as that. It's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong, so try to just look for trends and stay calm. A few more specifics, if we're talking about text and images, I get a lot of asks for, how many words should I use? What time of day should I post? And I, again, encourage you to just lean into what's working, what you see is resonating. But here are some tips, be descriptive but concise. Talk to your audience, but also keep in mind that anyone could see this post, so don't use only insider information or only jargon. Try to be clear, but if someone else were to see it, would they understand it? And for visuals, they're vital. More and more social media is all about the visuals. So make sure they're high quality. And if you're going to use video, vertical or horizontal, it's a really important choice. So try to test it out first. Make sure you're making a thoughtful decision. So what does this mean for Rotary? Those were all tips and tricks that I hope you can take to anywhere. But for Rotary specifically, I actually went through that little exercise. So what's the main reason you have your public page? To keep members up to speed and engaged. And who is it for? It's for you, the members. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, what about our secondary goal, which is to bring in new members to speak to a larger audience and community? And that's where I'll encourage you. Make the page about yourself, for yourself, and if that is successful, it will have a ripple effect, and it will encourage other people to join, to become members, to become interested. So I'm going to leave you with a few tips on how to make this page make ripples, and that is engage with the page. Facebook's algorithm favors heavily engagement. If there is a post that every single one of you likes and shares, other people will see it who don't follow the page. So that's the number one piece of advice that I can give. Second would be to invite your friends to like the page, particularly those few people that you've talked to Rotary about before who are a little bit interested. Shoot it their way, send them a message. And lastly, when you do share Rotary content, like I mentioned before, be sure to give just a bit of context. Say, hey, here's a photo of myself and my colleagues at the Rotary Club. We're always looking for members. Message me if you're interested. Just keep in mind that people might not be familiar and make sure that it's digestible for them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Liza. I just wanted to flash forward real quickly, hopefully. This is our public page, and this is our private page. So get familiar with it, like it, share it, and help us boost our image as a great club and boost our engagement within the club. Back to you, Cindy.
All right, thank you, Dave. Thanks, Liza, and thanks, Hamilton McCullough and Green Rubino. Engage the page. I like that. That was really helpful. So now, to introduce our main program is Carla Fowler. Carla has always been interested in how science can be applied to help people. She uses her MD and PhD from the University of Washington in her executive coaching practice, THAXA. THAXA helps leaders with ambitious goals turn down the noise on everything that competes for their attention to focus on what matters most. Fun fact, Carla is an active angel investor supporting medical and biotech startups. And she loves physical training and learning new outdoor sports. New for her this fall are mountain biking and surfing. So let's welcome Carla Fowler.
So as a fourth-generation Puget Sound native and a nascent New Yorker, Kurt Dammeier has always been passionate about authentic, full-flavored foods free of artificial additives. Kurt is the owner and head chef of Sugar Mountain, a creative food company that is home to extraordinary food brands and restaurants. These brands offer a great range of delights to customers and includes the award-winning Beecher's handmade cheese, as well as the Butcher's Table, which is a swanky steakhouse featuring Mizima Reserve, Sugar Mountain's luxury Wagyu beef brand. Fortunately, you have all gotten a chance to experience both of these out in the lobby. With each operation, Kurt's goal is to demonstrate how quality ingredients make for delicious meals without added food colorings, flavor enhancers, or preservatives. Beyond the retail world, Kurt is affecting change in people's eating habits through his book, Pure Food, and through the Beecher's Foundation. Through education and community engagement, the foundation inspires people to eat real food and to vote with every food dollar. To do this, they have launched the Sound Food Uprising campaign, an education program which aims to reach 1 million consumers and empower them to improve their health through better foods. Today, we are going to hear about this and more. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Kurt Beecher Dammeier. Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you. I've got to tell you, I'm really honored to be here. I have a long family history with Rotary. My father was a long time and passionate member of the downtown Tacoma chapter, and I wish he could be here to see this. God, I didn't expect that. Sugar Mountain is the name of my company, and it's named after the Neil Young song, Sugar Mountain. And how many of you remember who Neil Young is? Okay, this is a good audience for that question. I've been speaking to some younger audiences, and they're like, Neil who? So the name, the song Sugar Mountain is about it's a coming of age song, and in the song, Sugar Mountain is an amusement park, and there's a key line in it that was, it says you can't be 20 on Sugar Mountain, and I took that to mean that if you're having fun, you won't grow old. And so that was the founding principle for my company, Sugar Mountain, which is essentially my second chapter. My first chapter was a family company headquartered in Tacoma that grew large. We sold. Age 38, I either had to go play golf the rest of my life or do something, and I'm a worker, so here I am 18 years later. I'm going to talk I want to make sure I'm on the right clicker. Okay, so we missed the slide. This is a little bit out of sequence. So this is the brands that my company operates. She talked about Beecher's. We also have a restaurant on Mercer Island named Bennett's. We own Pasta and Company, which is the one group in here that I didn't found. I bought it from Marcella Rosine back in 1999. Particularly proud of the fact that Marcella still shops there and sends me about twice a year, sends me feedback, and most of it's good, so I'm pretty happy. We also own Mishima Reserve, which is our Wagyu beef that you tried out there, and it's a local restaurant that features it, the Butcher's Table right down the street. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed our sign. It's very large is why okay. So, timeline. This is the timeline. Founded Sugar Mountain in '99. There's a few things I'm going to point out here that are highlights. Number one, you see the picture of Oprah. Oprah has a show, or especially used to have a show, her Ultimate Favorite Things show, where she gave away cars and books and all sorts of stuff. And one year, as she was giving away Cadillacs, she also gave away like $10 packages of our Beecher's mac and cheese. People ask me, so was that good for business? Yes. It was very good for business. To this day, people come to Pike Place Market and want to see the place where Oprah's favorite mac and cheese is being sold. Number two was the, you can see a little logo there. Our flagship cheese won the Best in Show at the American Cheese Society competition out of 1,700 cheeses and 370 cheesemakers. So that was a very big deal for our company. And then it doesn't have a logo on there, but the next one that I'm very, very proud of is the founding of the Sound Food Uprising, which is the kind of audacious goal that we're taking on at the Beechers Foundation, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So I'm going to talk about how we think about brand marketing. And understand going into this that we are artisanal brand marketers. And one of the things that's been really lucky for us is that the artisanal consumer basically acts a lot like now millennials do, where they're distrustful of messages from big companies. They want to know deeply who the company is, what they stand for. They don't just buy products. If you go backwards, my father bought products. My kids buy companies. And so we've been really lucky in that our core philosophies are being moved toward by society. So number one is trust. In my mind, there's nothing that our value that we're trying to achieve is the value of brand, and everything's about brand, and the only value in brand is trust. So everything that we do in our company is designed and put through that prism of, will this help us build trust with our customers? That's the only goal. We sell food, but we sell food to try to build trust. And it requires transparency. And we are very, very intentional about being transparent so people can come to trust us and know us and understand us. Of course, that starts with making cheese behind glass at Pike Place Market, which is full frontal allegory for trust. There's not a person who walks by there who doesn't walk away with a sense that this company is open and honest and I can trust them. But it extends to things like all of our restaurants have open kitchens. It extends to our communication about our company. It extends to everything that we do. We desire to be transparent. Secondly, and I learned this from my printing company days. My family's company was printing. And we operated in Tacoma, and I was the sales rep for the Seattle area. And I figured out that if I could just get a buyer to go with me to see the plant, to meet my people, to see the care that we take, that the sales process was easy. And so we work really hard to try to create experiences for people within our brands. We want them to have a tactile experience, whether that's buying an auction item at a school auction, or experiencing Beechers, or eating our cheese and our beef here at this luncheon. We assume our customers are intelligent, and we don't worry about messages that might be a little too complicated. What we know is that people who figure it out like it better, and that companies that are too pandering in their communication are viewed without passion. Examples are our No Woman cheese, which is, of course, women are happy to eat it. We're happy to have you eat it, women. But it was named after the No Woman, No Cry song for Bob Marley. The flavors are Jamaican. And so we didn't spend any time educating anybody on that. We knew that the people who got it would get it and would like it. We did have a little bit of a situation in that the ghost of Bob Marley sent us a cease and desist letter. And so we similarly handled it by assuming intelligence, and we changed the little drawing on the front with the dreadlocks to kind of a millennial-looking young woman with dreadlocks, and we changed the name of it to New Woman, and we just left it at that. Our steak grid of our beef company is people think maybe it's a little complicated, but we try to educate people. We try to give them more information, and if it's too much, we might turn off a few people, but the people who really want information will be turned on by the fact that we give it to them. We try to be remarkable. We try very hard to be remarkable. And when I say that, we want to do things that cause people to remark, right? We talk about the phrase man bites dog. Are y'all familiar with that? No one talks about a dog biting a man. But if a man bites a dog, it's pretty remarkable, and people talk about it. And so we try to do things like make cheese in the middle of a city, like make a pig-shaped food truck, like have features in our restaurants which are really fantastic and remarkable, like this chandelier at the butcher's table that everybody talks about. But it's important to be not ridiculous when you do this. So our pig-shaped truck isn't a porky pig, it's an urban assault pig. We aim all of our products at the 75th percentile. We are not the 95th percentile. We don't want to be aimed at that person who is inherently disloyal, who's looking for the newest experience. You all know that person who always has to bring a different, brand new beer to the party, or everything that they're interested in are things nobody's ever tried. The 75th percentile is people who are aspirational, but want to wear a brand as a badge for a long term. And that's the person we are looking for. We avoid the friend zone, and you talked about this in social media. How many people don't know what the friend zone is? You know, a fair amount of you. So my kids, I have millennial kids. The friend zone is, for my male kids, is a girl who just likes you, but you couldn't date, right? She's put you in the friend zone. And we don't ever want to be in the friend zone as a product. We want to be deeply liked by some rather than kind of liked by many. And so we really have to do things that are remarkable, that are outstanding, that push the limits so that we can deeply connect with some rather than being kind of liked by many. And then lastly, the top of this is trust and the bottom is charity. In today's world, with millennials, with artisanal consumers, part of who you are as a company is what you stand for. And if you don't stand for a charity, if they can't tell that you're charitable, that you give back, that's a negative. And we clearly do. We started from the very beginning with Beecher's. So for our beef brand, we just started our new charitable connection. And for beef emit, as they live, they off-put methane gas, which is a part of our carbon problem. And there's a rising tide against animal products because of their carbon output. And so we've determined that we are planting 2.5 million mangrove trees in Madagascar over the next 5 years, which over the life of those trees, they will sequester over 2 times the amount of carbon that our cows put out for these same 5 years. So we're addressing this problem head on. I think we're probably the first beef company that is tackling this problem head on. And it's surprisingly affordable to to sequester carbon for us. In the Beechers Foundation, we've been going since 2006. We've had a kids program that teaches kids that food marketers lie to them. It shows them how to figure out what's really in food. It tells them what those funny sounding names are, and then they all work together as a team to cook a vegetarian chili, which is delicious and really brings them into this idea of cooking their own food and owning the things that go into their body. So we've had about 140,000 kids have been through that workshop over the last 12 years, both here in Seattle and in New York City. There's more. So I'm going to play a little video about what we're doing for adults, the Sound Food Uprising, which kicked off this last February, which is a big, big uptick, an audacious goal for the Beechers Foundation.
Food is personal. It's what connects us to our cultures, communities, and our families. It fuels us at home, school, and work. And at the Beechers Foundation, we're harnessing the power of education to clean up Puget Sound's food supply and create a healthier and more productive population along the way.
Sound Food Uprising is a unique course from the Beechers Foundation offered to adults across the Puget Sound.
The hands-on workshop is educational, engaging, and maybe a little irreverent. Together in class, we explore the state of today's food system. We discover tools for shopping and cooking smarter, and we prepare and eat a delicious meal.
The Sound Food Uprising workshop begins by exploring the current state of our food system. How did we get to this point where the standard American diet is 61% overly processed?
In cohorts of 20, students take a behind-the-scenes look into our food system to learn how highly processed foods are made and why they're so difficult to resist. We cook in every class, teaching students how to trust their palates and focus on techniques rather than exact recipes. We read ingredient lists and nutrition labels. After the workshop, we arm students with a plethora of practical tips and post-workshop resources.
One of the most common things we hear from participants is that they wish the workshop didn't have to end and that they could come back for more.
The workshop itself was surprisingly well-rounded, where they gave you a historical basis for why people in the United States eat so many processed foods and about the sugar industry and how advertising works and so forth. I'm much more likely and more cognizant of reading ingredient lists as opposed to just nutritional facts, which is something that I never considered. It was definitely fun. It was super interactive, which was really nice, and it felt very casual. I didn't feel like I was being talked at. Let's talk about how we could maybe tweak things and be inclusive and incorporate things to your lifestyle that maybe you hadn't considered that could drastically improve your health.
Be a part of the Sound Food Uprising and help us change lives for the better. We can't do it without you. Join us.
So here's our youth program data. Have 12 years of operating the youth program, and it costs us $75 to change the way a single kid eats. We also know that a great deal of those kids are dragging along their family because we use fourth graders who are smart enough to talk to their parents, but still cute enough to be listened to. Our adult program data just started in February, but the early results are even better than the kids data. We think we can change definitely the same amount of kids, maybe more, and change a more fundamental view of food throughout the region. And so far, at small scale, it costs us $123 to change an adult. They're not as smart as the kids. So how can you help? Attend a workshop, and these two right here, Sarah and Sarah, are the leaders of our group. We'd invite you to attend a complimentary workshop, introduce us to your business or organization, spread the word, and maybe most importantly, vote for better food with your dollars. All of us control the food supply with our purchasing. And our core strategy is to make you better stewards of your dollars to create a better food system for the Puget Sound in the future. Thank you.
We have time for questions.
Kurt, what happened to Liam's?
So Liam's is a restaurant that I opened in U Village. And one of the things that we say in my company, like others maybe, is make mistakes, make them fast, recognize them, and move on. And Liam's was a mistake. And I didn't love it. We had a lease that allowed us to leave, and so we left.
Over here.
Hi there. I'm curious to hear a little bit about your food workshops for kids and adults here in the Puget Sound. And particularly, we know that there's such a great disparity in health outcomes for residents of our community, often based on where they live. And like food deserts is a major problem sort of in South Seattle and South King County. So I'm curious sort of, once you help equip people with the knowledge, have they been able to actually access the nutritious foods they need, or is there a component of that work in your foundation?
So that's about 3 great questions. Number 1, let me say that statistically there are no food deserts in King County. A food desert is you can't drive to good produce within 10 minutes. Now, that doesn't mean that it's very difficult for some communities to get good food. We believe in the capitalist system, and that our job is to create demand for healthy food. And wherever we can create demand for healthy food, supply will follow. We also recognize that we're trying to create change. Our product is change. And the place we can be the most efficient about creating change is where there's the worst inequities. And clearly, King County has that situation. And you were right about health, about longevity. It's about, I think it's over 15 years based on where you live. And a lot of that's based on food. So we are intentionally going to places that are the most underserved and have the least amount of power in this equation. And one of our jobs is to help them see the power that they have, help them see that this message that they can't afford not to eat at McDonald's is false. Our workshops, we price out the food and we show everyone who goes through it that you can cook food for as cheaply as you can buy it at fast food. And then we try to tap into their core motivations to get everyone, and certainly for lower income populations, it's harder to reprioritize time. But really, at the end of the day, we are trying to get people to reprioritize their time and see that health outcomes, their long-term health outcomes of them, and more importantly, their family, all derive from the amount of time they're willing to put in to put good food in their bodies. Did I answer your question? All right, good.
I got a different question for you. You said you came from a family business, family full of entrepreneurs, and you made a jump from selling your company out to being retired and looking around going, now what? Could you explain a little bit about that mental process of what you went through and agonized through during that transition?
It wasn't that deep. It was about 3.5 weeks. I got desperately bored and my wife wanted me out. I love to play golf, but I can't do it all the time. I tried to Google, it looks like you're printing. Yeah, I was in the printing business. So my printing business got involved in in making the physical products of software. When you used to buy Microsoft Word in a box on a shelf, we printed the boxes, we printed the books, we duplicated the floppy disks, we had big lines of people assembling. So we were in a business that became obsolescent very quickly. So the second time around, I wanted to recreate my family business in a category that wasn't going to be facing obsolescence, that had real long-term staying power. So, and I also wanted something I was deeply passionate about, so food.
Question over here.
Hello. I recently started my own business, not quite food related. It's about organizing parties and events. So I suppose there are some similarities. And my question is, how long did it take you before you felt like your business is successful and you felt like you're no longer struggling for the business to survive?
We're struggling for our business to survive today. Seriously, I mean, the restaurant business is not that easy, and it's hard to get good people. We face real pressures in the cheese business. So I just feel like we're struggling today. Now, we have some inertia, right? We have some success that our struggle isn't for tomorrow, our struggle is for 3 to 5 years. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that I knew our business was successful when I got invited to speak at Seattle Rotary. Joel, how's it going? Thank you. Nope, still not here. I can hear you.
Okay. Anyway, first of all, thank you for being here. We're happy to have you at Rotary, and you're one of the best speakers we've had probably in a decade. I'm only saying that because he's a friend. But actually, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, I've known Kurt for a long, long time, and I can tell you that among his friends, everybody's that I know is very impressed with what you've accomplished, and your passion shows, the results show, and I can see personally that there's no end in sight with what you're doing, especially with the foundation and the philanthropic efforts and so forth. The questions I have regard our access to food, our ordering of food. You mentioned the concept of time, that it takes time to educate, time to consume, or figure out the foods you want to consume and so forth. I see things like Amazon purchasing Whole Foods, I see instant delivery, I see Blue Apron, I see meal delivery and that sort of thing happening, so it's sort of happening faster and faster and faster. Another kind of wraparound question in here is we've all learned that natural doesn't necessarily mean natural in the grocery store, but organic versus non-organic, paying the price. I guess my question comes back around to, given the knowledge that you have of the sourcing of food, the availability of food in a society like ours, whether there are the deserts or what have you or not, how would you suggest that we as consumers approach this from a practical perspective and apply it in our daily lives, both from a sourcing standpoint, food prep standpoint, that sort of thing?
Well, this is going to sound self-serving and obvious, but I think the first thing you should do is sign up for one of our workshops. Because we will help you understand where you're being duped. And you are, right? I don't care how well you're trying to eat. There are things that you don't quite understand about our food system that you'll find out from our workshops. Secondly, I think that the best thing you can do is let your millennial children be your guide. Millennials are skeptical. And we all who grew up in the 60s are not nearly as skeptical as we need to be in today's world to feed ourselves well. So a healthy sense of skepticism, learning some tricks about how to cook. And one of the things we do in our workshops is we give you some strategies. We start by teaching you, we show you how to make a salad dressing from scratch with no recipe, just by putting things in and tasting them. So we want you to learn how to cook and trust, not follow a recipe and be daunted. So there's that. And then I think ask questions. Ask questions even at Whole Foods. Even organics aren't really quite everything you might imagine. So things that are organic are only organic about how they grew the stuff. How they processed it isn't necessarily organic. And then just lastly is care. Care about what you put in your body and notice how different things you put in your body make you feel.
Question over here. Hey, I'm really curious about how you calculated the percent of change in behavior of the people who went through your programs, and where did you get those percentages?
So for the kids, we go back to them 1 year later, or 2 years later, actually, 1 year later, and go into and ask them a full set of questions. We test them on their knowledge, and then we ask them about change. So it is self-reported. For the adults, we haven't gotten to a year yet, so the data that we've gotten is also self-reported at 1 month and 3 months.
Mark Weed, and you and I talked out in the hall, and many of you know that I'm in the cattle business, farming, and the point that has not been talked about here is how to get a living wage at the ground level, in other words, at the producer level. Because where we're heading, and unfortunately, many of us aren't really paying what it really costs to produce the meal that you're eating on a daily basis. And so education on the fact, going back to what Joel said, is that maybe what we ought to be doing is also being willing to put that extra few dollars in to buy that product. And what are you doing with, because what it amounts to is that we are forcing ourselves into that agribusiness model, because that's how you get the price down. You don't necessarily get the price down by going down to the Puyallup Valley and buying a carrot down there. So your thoughts, your help in that regard would be helpful to that industry. And so what do you think?
So while every one of us at the foundation is deeply passionate about that, about the idea that getting healthier foods into our food system and getting rid of agribusiness, that isn't our mission. Our mission is to get people to use whole meats and vegetables of any kind. We aren't currently talking much about whether or not that's a GMO carrot or we don't promote organics. We don't talk about Monsanto and its effects on the groundwater. We are about trying to get people to prioritize time to eat healthier at its most basic level. Now, I think that as time goes on, if you're successful, your mission will morph. And what you've talked about is personally a passion of our foundation's people. And so I believe that probably once we get going, that will be added into our mission. But I do a great deal of startup businesses, and the death of startup businesses is not enough focus. So we are tightly focused on making incremental change in the way kids and adults view and buy food, and we don't take it to the level you're talking about. I hope in the future we will. Yeah.
I have a quick question / comment. Your target audience, you speak a lot of millennials and hopefully even younger, because I'm teaching my 13-year-old to like cook well. But that audience is also obsessed with Pinterest and YouTube and watching and learning. I'm just curious if you're doing content, a lot of content, that connects to the workshops, that connects to your experience.
We are doing content, and I, as a business person, as the chairman of this foundation, I really struggle with it. I think social media is full evil. I hate social media. The idea that we spend 53 minutes a day on each one of those stupid programs is ridiculous. And I see in my own life the self-esteem effects that it has on millennials. It's crushing. The average self-esteem of millennials has to be quite a bit less than it was in my generation. So I hate it. And yet, I also really, really deeply hate plastic. And yet we have to sell our stuff in plastic right now. So social media for us is a necessary evil. We do participate on a reasonable basis. But God, I hope it just goes away.
Good luck with that. I have a question over here. Kurt, you're a guy with big ideas. What's next on your plate? You gonna buy some more brands?
I'd like to start some more brands, yeah. We're putting a whey tank in Beecher's. When you make cheese, you bring in milk. 10 pounds of milk makes 1 pound of cheese and 9 pounds of whey, just like, Little Miss Muffet. And we used to just put the whey down the drain, and we're putting in a tank to capture it in January. And I have a couple of ideas about products I'd like to make out of that whey. And one of them, you guys tell me if you think this would be good, would be Beecher's Irish Whey Cream, like a little Bailey's-ish liqueur. Sound good? All right. Yeah. So I guess that's it. One more question, or are we done? That was posthumously the last question. Thank you.
All right, to close it out, I'm going to circle back with Kurt Dammeier speak his talk on food and his focus on health. So make every food choice matter. Today's food for thought is from Michael Pollan, author, journalist, activist. Food is not just fuel. Food is about family. Food is about community. Food is about identity. And we nourish all of those things when we eat well. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week.